Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Hey Little Magpie. For this layout I'm using the Pinkfresh Studio range Tourist mode, and in particular I really love this en route paper. So I'm decided I'm actually going to attack it with a pair of scissors, and I also used a scalpel. But I've removed all the white pieces around the outside and I've kept the centre piece the same. Now I put it over this piece of white cardstock, but I realised it's going to need another colour behind it, so that's fine. I want to raise it up, so I've just brought in some children's craft foam and I'm going to stick this to the back so that it's actually well supported when I do stick it to some cardstock. So I will tell you that it did take me a little while to cut out all those bits between the coloured stripes. I don't know about you, but it reminds me of a London tube map, and it gives me like a city feel. So it did take a while. I did use scissors to cut the outside ones out, and I used a scalpel and a glass mat to do the inside ones. They're not perfect if you have a close-up look, but I'm hoping that you don't, and the overall feel is fine. So I've cut some very thin strips of foam there and stuck them on, and now I'm trying it on a couple of different backgrounds. That's a very, very dark blue, and then this blue. In fact, this is the blue that I eventually go for a number of reasons, and one of them is it's a very similar colour to the alphas in this range, and I just thought it tied it in a little bit better. So there's the alphas, and I think that blue ties in with them a bit more, but it really stands out a bit more now it's been lifted up. You can see that little bit of shadow behind the lines. So I printed off some photographs, and I've got 12 here. Their finished size is about 2x2 square, and they're all from a trip to London, and that's what I'm going to use. But what I have thought about is that this would make a great opening page for a holiday album, or way of documenting a day trip or any sort of outing. But cities, anywhere with a metro station, you can imagine this being New York or anywhere in Europe, Paris, but I'm going to use photos taken over a couple of days in London. So I've kind of got them where I want them. Some photos are paired up. Either they were taken in the same place or they've got a similar theme. And in the tray on the left, I've gone through all the ephemera and I've picked out lots of the words, and I've got a couple of Hey Little Magpie flares there. And I'm going to try and add something to everything, if that makes sense. Just to add some interest around the edges. There's a map there as well that I found that I thought would be perfect. There's a picture of my husband with the guidebook in that photograph. Well, I don't know if you're anything like me, but when you go somewhere new or somewhere like London, you can do lots of exploring. I've even lived in London, but actually every time I go, I feel like there's new things to see and do. So there's lots to take in here. I've also tried to have a mixture. There's some outdoor photos, there's some indoor photos taken in a museum, there's some food photos. We also went on the New Elizabeth line for the first time, so that gets a mention. And I've picked all these photos and I've got them all in colour because it is going to be a bright, busy page. I know that from the start. I haven't needed to change any of the photographs. The colours will all go because there's so many colours in the paper itself. That's why having that neutrally blue background works when the alphas come in as well. And it's nice and refreshing to use so much. Whether this is my style or not, I'm not sure, but I actually like the feel of the layout. I think it gives me lots of memories, but also it's definitely got lots to look at. You can find this range and lots more current ranges at the Hey Little Magpie store. I really recommend you check them out. There's new collections being added all the time. The flare also with the cameras, they're Hey Little Magpie own. They've got their own stuff within the shop, lots of flares and stickers and fabric pieces, and as I say, ephemera, and lots of bits being added all the time, so do check that out. So I brought in the alphas because the central portion, I'm trying to keep it relatively empty, but I've just brought in some freezer paper there. I don't know whether you've ever used this. I'm going to put the letters on it just so I can see the spacing. So I'm just clearing myself a little bit of room, moving the layout across, and I'm going to just see if I can get the title to fit. I'm going to use just the capitals for this, so I just need to make sure I've got enough letters. So I've brought in the packaging and I've put it behind the freezer paper because there is a line on the top, and I'm going to use that line to try and get the word in a line, if that makes sense, because I'm not very good at keeping things straight, but I'd like the word London. So I'm going to call it London Town. I know that London's a city. It's a song title, and that's, I did tell you with London Calling, which is another song title. It's one of my go-to when I'm looking for a title for a layout. So it's going to be London Town. So I've used that. It's nice and straight. I'm going to now cut it off the freezer paper, and then I can position it and see where it goes without moving the letters around, because I find that if you do that quite a bit, it loses its stickiness, and that's when you find them in the bottom of the page protector in the future. I really like that orangey pinky piece that came off one of the 12 by 12s, and it says going places, so much to do, so much to see, and that's very much how I feel about visiting places. So I'm now going to do the second word, so I'm just putting that line on the packaging underneath the freezer paper to do the second word, just so I can get that lined up. And there's plenty of capitals for me to be able to do London Town. There's enough O's for that to happen. So that's all, and N's for that matter. I've used 3 of each, but that's absolutely fine. So I'm liking the way that's going. I'm thinking that this layout is actually not far off, but we'll see. There's a couple of little other bits and pieces I might want to add. Now I add a geotag to either side of the word town, just to see how that looks. They're off the alpha sheet, but they don't make the final cut. I just feel that I don't need them. I think there's enough going on, and I make that decision really quick. So I'm going to start to tidy up and start to think about sticking everything down and committing myself. So there's just one other thing that I was going to try, just to add a little bit more to this layout, and that was to bring in some enamel dots. So I keep this little bag, and I've got lots of different enamel dots in there, half-used sheets mainly. And if you can see the dots where the lines meet, where I would call they would like tube stations as such, I'm going to add some enamel dots in colours that complement the paper itself, and I'm going to add some just to those, just to give it another texture really. I think the being raised and being shiny, I think they would really work. So I'm just going through the ones that I've got left and just matching. Some of them I didn't realise are slightly smaller, and some of them are slightly more raised, but you're not going to notice that. And it's funny, I add them to the layout, then I showed it to my daughter, then she spotted 2 that I'd missed, then I showed it to my husband, who spotted another one. So it's definitely worth having a good look. Some of them are covered obviously by, will be covered by the photograph. So I'm going to stop doing that. I've stuck the photos down. They've not been raised at all. I think there's enough going on, but it means now I know exactly which dots I need to put the enamel dots on. So they're not all covered at this stage, but I thought there's no point trying to cover them, the circles with enamel dots, until I commit to where the photos are actually going to be. So I know there's 12 small photos, and it probably does look a little cluttered in the end, but I do feel like there's a lot of information all on here. I decide not to journal on the front, and I've made a list on the back of the things that are covered. Some of them are quite obvious from the front, you know, landmarks that you would recognise, but there's a couple of things like the show at the Tate Modern that we saw, the exhibition, that I don't want to forget the name of, so I've put that on the back. So I'm now adding foam pads, would you believe it, to the back of the letters. I know that seems a bit fiddly, just felt I wanted them to be raised in the centre a little bit, so I've cut up some foam pads into tiny pieces, which I do a lot, and there's lots of chibbly bits to my left, I do apologise. I do have to sweep the floor once I finish this layout, so I'm just going to come in and stick the stickers and the puffy words and phrases, usually using a bit more foam. I don't mind having a layout with a bit of dimension. I think I like the way it adds a little bit of shadow to things, so I'm going to start to stick down the things that I've chosen. I'm not going back particularly and having another look. I've picked plenty, so I'm going to work my way round and stick them all down. And to be honest, there's so many phrases and words and stickers and puffy stickers and things in this, and die cuts in this range, that I was actually spoilt for choice. I could have picked so many, and because I could use any colour, because I've used so many colours, that actually gave me even a wider choice for this layout. So there's a yellow one on the right there that says this was worth the hype, and I'm going to use it with the Tate Modern visit. but so far I've not been able to manage to use it with it being yellow. So that's everything stuck down. That's all the enamel dots, I think, in position by this stage. And this is the finished layout and some close-ups. So I hope this gives you some inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channels, and we hope to see you here again very soon. Bye for now.